Hey everybody, and welcome back to more of the Constantiam Chronicles, featuring me, Jack the Ripper, and maybe also a secret guest at the end. So you may be wondering what I'm doing with all of this cobblestone. Well, you see, in between previous filming periods, I got the idea to map out the entire area that I wanted to build within. And so I planned on making very large, boxy towers, utilizing all of these junk blocks like cobblestone, stone, and so on. I wanted to make these towers in such a way that they are completely filled internally, with only little rooms and very decorative hallways connecting them. However, as I continued building, my imagination really ran wild. And well, just take a look for yourselves. The first idea I had to make real was a very large, tall tower. In my childhood, there were always fun times to be had when a box of some appliance or the like was left lying around for us kids to get a hold of, and I, of course, would build box forts out of them from time to time. I even repurposed one of them at one point into a full-blown restaurant. And well, I love to reminisce about, bunches of things like that, and I'm a sucker for things that remind me of the happier days of my childhood. So I decided to sculpt this castle of mine into a similar sort of fashion. One obstacle that was really troublesome during the construction of all this was the constant bombardment of TPS attacks that had been happening all throughout due to the invasion of the French. Whether or not that invasion is ever truly going to be resolved is anyone's guess. Currently we can only see 2 beacon beams in the back there, but pretty soon I'll have a good 8 or 9 sets of beacons scattered all around the entire complex. With these incredibly tall towers, evocative of those same box forts of yore, I laid out the area I wished to occupy. But in addition to the inspiration of my childhood, there's a matter of various games that I've played up until now. Recently, a remastered version of Metroid Prime has just been released for the Switch, and I had very fond memories of that game. But above that, the sequel, Metroid Prime 2, had a very intriguing part of it that reminded me of a lot of what I was doing here, a section called the Sanctuary Fortress. So naturally, as I like to draw upon the inspiration of said fond memories, I will also utilize some of the designs for Metroid Prime 2's Sanctuary Fortress as well. And so, as time marches onward, so too does the complexity of the design that I've begun to commit to. This will require many more sea lanterns than I could reasonably obtain, so Alpha and I were at a loss, needing to supplement our store of items. Lucky for us, Alpha had managed to secure quite a large dupe stash for our purposes, and so things will likely come together far quicker than I had initially expected. I know the structure lines and other parts can become a little overwhelming and confusing at times, but bear with me as there is method to this madness. And once again, I'd like to just apologize for all the rain and the nasty occlusion I have to do on all the video footage. It's just one of those unfortunately necessary steps that I have to take here and there. But at any rate, you can begin to see a larger structure come together. We have windows in the front and a large tower in the back, along with several side rooms, and hopefully a bunch of entrances and other things that will lead here and there. All in all, I believe this entire project is going to definitely be worth the time and effort it's taken to get to this point. And I hope you all continue to stick around and enjoy it alongside. The next most important section I wanted to add was a rather sizable wall that wraps around the entire part of the keep, sort of creating an inner courtyard part, apart from the rest of the outside. As to how I'll decorate the inner courtyard later, well, it'll definitely be different enough to separate it from the outside as opposed to the inside. As of this part now, the outside terraforming has already been done, so the inner part as well as the actual building process is still underway. You'll all just have to wait and see till next time for that. I also ended up wanting a larger side tower, one that would stretch all the way up to the build height eventually, and also connect back to the initial tower that I built a while ago. So I decided to connect the wall up to that larger tower there, and eventually I decided to also give it a nice coating of sea lanterns. I swear the rampant use of sea lanterns makes the place look like it's set from a sci-fi movie or from the movie Tron or something like that. Another dream that I had while I was filling out all of this area is that I thought about continuing more building farther back onto the back reaches of the island, way out of render distance right at the moment, and making more and more larger complexes behind this one. I'm really not sure how large of a castle this will all end up being when it's all completed, but I certainly do want it to seem imposing. Though I'm already very experienced with making a very large city, I don't know exactly how large of a city I want this to be, so I guess only time will tell. But for our stash-snatching shenanigans to be viable, I needed to go ahead and make a chest room as a sort of containment area, something I had expected to make a little bit later and higher up in the building, but also something not too large, but just good enough for our purposes. In addition, a nice floor design with connecting staircase leading up to the stash room was also necessary. And here you can see me placing more and more chests, as I wasn't quite sure how big of an area I would need to occupy and how many items exactly Alpha was going to end up transferring over. But all in all, we got more than enough chest area for our current needs. All throughout the process, I was talking with Alpha and just generally giving him a hard time for not actually playing with me too much over the last several years. Of course, it wasn't all his fault or anything, that's just kind of how life goes, but it's definitely refreshing to be able to have him actually participate in the base's overall activities for a change. This really truly wouldn't have been possible without Alpha. And well, every time I get the chance to play with him, I'm reminded of how lucky I was to have met him before. And here he is, Alpha's newest account. With this setup, we can easily transfer back and forth between the two sites, and so we basically attained an entire stash all in the blink of an eye. All it took was a single Ender Pearl stasis pool to help enable this simple dance of life, death, and stashes. Oh, and a brand new alt, too. Remarkable what one little pool of water and a jet stream underneath it can accomplish, isn't it? Now, with Pearl safely in tow, Alpha and I can get back to our own personal conversation. Though what precisely we were talking about at the time, I don't really remember. I swear, Alpha's skin here makes him look like a Yeti or something. Next thing on the agenda, once Alpha and I get this stash moved, is to fully terraform the island to suit our every want and need. Starting first with all these stupid mushrooms. These ugly eyesores are everywhere and they need to be evicted, shall we say. So finally, with this last shot of the skeleton of the keep in sight, let's admire its every angle, aspect, and awesome quality. Simply remarkable, isn't it? Majestic, even. I'd like to ask you as we close out, please like, comment, and subscribe for more. I really appreciate any love you'd be willing to give this video, as I'm in desperate need of that right now. Follow me on all my socials and our Discord, all of which is linked down below, and take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye.